Hello and welcome. I'm Melinda Akinlami. Tonight, protest by members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria at the National Assembly turns violent. Police say 9 of their personnel injured, 2 of them shot, allegedly by the protesters. 13 more witnesses called by the PDP candidate Atiku Abubakar to testify at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal say President Buhari's election did not comply with electoral laws. Circumstances surrounding the death of a Nigerian lady in a hotel in South Africa get more complex as family members say they suspect murder. And Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam, confirms controversial bill allowing extradition to the Chinese mainland is dead.
On business news tonight, African Development Bank challenges federal government on the ways to tackle the country's infrastructure deficit through investment.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's Super Eagles set to take on South Africa in the quarterfinal of the 2019 African Nations Cup at the Cairo International Stadium tomorrow.
And from Abuja, Senate seeks heaviest punishments for rapists, especially cases involving minors, to serve as a deterrent for perpetrators of the act.
Members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria invaded the National Assembly complex in Abuja today, injuring 2 police officers and smashing windscreens of cars in the process. Now, some of the protesters who were caught in between the first and second gates of the complex, however, ran into the bushes surrounding the premises after police fired tear gas at them. The protesters have been demanding the release of their leader, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, who has been in detention since 2015. Recently, they raised an alarm over the health of their leader, alleging that he had been poisoned in detention. The IMN members had also staged protests in Kaduna, where Sheikh El-Zakzaki and his wife have been standing trial over the 2015 clash between the Shiite members and soldiers, which led to the death of many of their members. Meanwhile, the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has visited the 2 officers who sustained injuries from the clash at the National Assembly clinic. In the meantime, the FCT Police Command has confirmed that 9 policemen have been injured while halting an attempt by the Shiite members to invade the National Assembly complex today. A statement from the PPRO of the command says the group, which initially pretended to be staging a peaceful procession, became violent and tried to force their way into the premises. They were, however, confronted by security operatives on ground who used minimum force to disperse them. The statement adds that the sect members shot 2 police officers in the leg and then used clubs and stones to inflict injuries on 7 others. The injured policemen have been taken to the hospital for treatment, while 40 members of the sect have been arrested. The FCT Police Command says those arrested will be dealt with in accordance to the law. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has ordered a 24-hour police surveillance in the FCT and its environs to prevent any breach of law and order. The House of Representatives has set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the ongoing crisis rocking the Edo State House of Assembly. This followed a lengthy debate on a motion of urgent public importance seeking that the House take over the functions of the Edo State House of Assembly to ensure its proper inauguration. Our correspondent, Larry Lasisi, has the rest of the story.
Point of order.
It's the first plenary session of the week. As lawmakers get ready for plenary, the majority leader of the House moves a motion to admit into the chamber former members from Edo State. In the gallery, 15 lawmakers from the State House of Assembly are also present. Their presence becomes clear when a motion of urgent public importance is raised, calling on the House to intervene and help forestall a constitutional crisis in the Edo State House of Assembly.
Concerned that on the same day, 17th of June 2019, the governor and his deputy, after abducting 4 members-elect against their wish, caused the clerk of the House to secretly swear in 9 members-elect out of the 24 at 9:30 p.m., well outside the normal time recognized by the rules of the House for the conduct of legislative business, further aware and worried that against the background of the illegality and the growing insecurity challenges in the state, no normal legislative business can take place unless the proper procedure for inaugurating the legislature is done, as envisaged and guaranteed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and security provided.
He appeals to the House to take over the affairs of the Edo State House of Assembly in line with the Constitution so as to ensure the proper inauguration of that assembly. The matter is thrown up for debate.
I'm worried because I'm a member of the great All Progressive Congress. And the 24 members you are talking about in Edo State, they are all APC members. I'm ashamed of the kind of example that is coming from my state.
We cannot immediately take over the functions of, or go down to practically tell them what to do. The best, to my knowledge, is to set up a committee, get the facts together so that the House will be properly guided. Let us not rush into action and set a dangerous precedent.
This House should equally consider the need to find a way of reconciling the governor of Edo State and the chairman of our great party, Comrade Adam Foshimole, because without doing so, the other exercise might actually end up in futility.
Those in favor of the amendment.
The prayer of the motion is amended to have a committee investigate the matter and report to the House with some recommendations. The House has set up an ad hoc committee to go to Edo State and investigate this matter. The committee has been given 1 week to submit a report before the House will take a decision. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
The People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, today called an additional 13 witnesses who testified in their petition at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Led in evidence by the Petitioners' Counsel, Mr. Levi Uzoku, the witnesses disputed the return of President Muhammadu Buhari by INEC as the winner of the presidential election. One of the witnesses claims he could not remember the date of the election. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafo, has this report.
It's the resumed proceedings of the Presidential Election Tribunal as the PDP continues to present witnesses and evidence in its case. In court were the leaders of the PDP and the APC, including the national chairman of the ruling party, Mr. Adams Oshomole. The PDP continued its case by calling a total of 13 witnesses, many of whom told the tribunal that thugs were used by the APC to chase away the agents of the PDP, thereby making some of the agents not to sign some result sheets. Mr. Salisu Mejingari, who is the chairman of the Katsina State PDP, told the tribunal that 1.55 million votes credited to President Muhammadu Buhari was not a true reflection of what transpired on the election day, maintaining that the figure was just allocated to the winner. Mejingari testified that the PDP won in Katsina State with 905,000 votes, while the APC came second with 872,000 votes from the result collated by his party. Another witness, Salisu Garba Funtua, alleged overvoting on the election day because card readers were abandoned. He claimed that the election was cancelled in several places due to the failure of the card reader. Another witness, Mr. Ogusonya Abiola, told the tribunal that he transmitted information to the INEC server during the election. He insisted that even though there is nothing about the server in the INEC guidelines, on election day he was taught how to transmit the results to the server. He also said that the guidelines were not used during the election. While the lawyer to the respondents refused to comment on the proceedings, this is what the PDP lawyer had to say.
Witness after witness has maintained that fact that they were trained by INEC officials to use the electronic device of transmitting records and polling results. And that INEC did in fact tell them that anywhere the card reader failed, they should not do manual accreditation. That means polling should not take place in that unit.
The tribunal has adjourned the PDP petition to Thursday, the 11th of July for continuation. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
The The President has met with the new and immediate past group managing directors of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, at the Presidential Villa. At the end of the meeting, the new NNPC GMD told State House correspondents that he plans to work with the EFCC and other anti-corruption agencies to contain corruption, curb compromise, and fish out bad eggs from the system. Mr. Mele Kyari takes over from Mr. Mikanti Baru, who retired from service of the corporation on July the 7th. The President also received the delegation of the Arewa Center for Documentation and Research at the State House. As the conspiracy theories grow over what may have happened to the former Deputy Director General of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Nigeria, that's Ms. Elizabeth Ndubisi, the riddle is far from being solved. Ms. Ndubisi died in mysterious circumstances at the Empress Palace Hotels in Johannesburg, South Africa on June the 12th. A statement from the hotel confirms that the incident happened but refers all inquiries to the South African police. Channels Television was granted access to the CCTV footage showing Ms. Ndubisi's movement up until the time her room was forced open by hotel authorities. Our South Africa Bureau Chief Betty Dibia has the rest of the story.
Ms. Elizabeth Obiano Ndubisi had been attending the 46th African Insurance Organization Conference here at Empress Palace, Kempton Park, Johannesburg. She was even at the final dinner party, but since her unresponsive body was discovered in her hotel room here, the uproar is yet to die down. Alexander Ndubisi, her cousin, was the first family member on the scene.
When the room was opened and I stepped into the room, if you've been a traveler who has a flight to catch, you would probably understand how the room of somebody who is about to pack her things and get on a plane. Number one, there was no broken glass. There was nothing broken in the room. All that seemed out of order was the fact that I was looking at a dead body. Her clothes were, you could see a semblance of the fact that she was about to probably dress up. And, her bags were, opened. Some of her medication were still on the table and all. Her phones were there. Her phones were still there and all. And there was no iota of, or any atom of any kind of, struggling.
A heart attack verdict had been accepted by the family and friends, but the uproar began when the death certificate and autopsy read death by unnatural cause. Alexander Ndubisi confirms both documents circulating on social media are authentic, as they were handed to him first. But he is worried about the impact what he describes as fake news on social media could be having on the quest to unravel the truth. At the moment, the earlier inquest docket has to be replaced with one for murder. And we can confirm that the original investigating police officer, Sergeant Sakane Madukwe, has resumed from her leave to take over the case. She has also given her word to obtain the Form 205 required to request CCTV footage of her last movements. And this will be ready by Thursday this week. Nigeria's Consul General to South Africa, Mr. Godwin Adama, who has been following up on the case, calls for restraint in people's utterances and is also appealing to Nigerians visiting the country to always inform or touch base with the missions when they arrive.
Aside from trying to take possession of the CCTV footage, we are also pursuing the fact that initially an inquest was opened into this case because we had not known it was a murder until after the autopsy report. So we are now ensuring that a murder case is what will be investigated, and that process is on.
Meanwhile, many unanswered questions abound. Was Elizabeth Obiano Ndubisi killed? Who stood to benefit from her death? Could the first responders have bungled her resuscitation procedure? Could there have been a mix-up in her autopsy report? The aged pathologist stands by his initial autopsy report and was open to the family seeking a second opinion. The more than 18 hours of CCTV footage we have watched shows no visible foul play. So at this point, many questions remain unanswered. Meanwhile, further forensic examinations on the body of the deceased will not be possible from here in South Africa, as the remains have been successfully repatriated to Nigeria and burial scheduled for the 25th of July. From the Emperor's Palace, Kempton Park, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, UK-based non-governmental organization Oxfam ranks Nigeria low on gender equality and poverty eradication in its 2019 inequality report. Says 69% of Nigerians live below the poverty line. That's in a moment. Stay with us.